This is the Ford EcoSport, a brand new subcompact, but what? Oh, this is the Ford EcoSport, the EcoSport. It's an EcoSport. This is a Ford, forget what its name is. Let's see what this thing's like to drive. At this event, there's a lot of EcoSports, so you're going to be seeing some with the black packages, you're going to see them in different exterior colors, different wheel choices. The interiors all remain largely the same. The biggest upgrade when you go to the SES and the titanium are the leather wrap seats. I feel as though they have a little more side bolstering as well, so you'll see a lot of... Oh, what's this? What is that? Sorry. The EcoSport has a stupid name, we know this, and I feel like Ford missed out on a real opportunity to make a new with this car. I'm not entirely confident this car could be considered sporty, but there are some things I do like about this car when I drive it. For one, the steering is just like it is in the Escape. It's darty and it's quick. This is the kind of crossover that Mini should be building with their classical reputation of having go-kart handling. You have two different engine choices with the EcoSport. You either have a 1-litre 3-cylinder or a 4-cylinder 2-litre. Both engines have automatic stop-start, and if that's a system that you hate, you do have a dedicated button down here to turn it off. So with a starting price of $19,600, the Ford EcoSport does start at a reasonable price, but if you want to take it to the top level titanium, you're going to be paying around $33,500. Both of them in Canada come with this 6-speed automatic, which I'm not crazy about. Neither of these engines are especially powerful. The 3-cylinder has 123 horsepower and 125 pound-feet of torque, and the 4-cylinder has 166 horsepower and 149 pound-feet. The gearbox always seems to be holding the engine at a bit too high of revs. I suppose that's just because the engines aren't all that powerful and they need to be operating a little higher in the rev range. With the 2-litre as well, when you buy that engine, you also buy 4-wheel drive. It's one set configuration. The difference in numbers for the horsepower and torque isn't what really differentiates these two engines to me. It's that the 2-litre seems a lot noisier. There's a lot more boom when you have your foot on the throttle. This is a reasonably quiet car when you go at 110, even though with these weirdly shaped wing mirrors, there isn't that much wind noise. Another thing with this 3-banger, it really runs out of power when you're getting high up in the rev range. I mean, I'm looking at $5,000 right now, and I'm not getting much more motivation to go. I think this car could actually be quite a bit of fun if it had a manual transmission available. Let's move on to the interior, because there's quite a few things I like in here and quite a few things that I don't. Starting off with the things I don't like, even in the top trim titanium, the majority of the things that you interact with are hard plastics. Here on the door cards, the only padded area is where you rest your elbow. Of course, that's the area that you want to be padded, but everywhere else is these brittle plastics. These A-pillars really protrude in towards the cabin, so I find myself checking around on both sides. You have a little glass cutaway down in the base of them, so you're able to look down into the corners, but I still don't think it's enough. One of the biggest problems I had with the Ford Escape I had a couple months ago was that I didn't think it was put together very well. There was a lot of flex in its components, but I'm happy to report that here I'm not seeing such an issue. The foundation for this center tunnel seems solid and everything seems to be pretty well screwed together. But for this brittle plastic that's pretty much everywhere else in the door cards, it isn't brilliant, I'll be honest. And they've got this weird pattern embedded into this plastic. It looks like pixelated bubbles from a 90s video game. But things that are nice, these leather seats are pretty good. For a tall guy like me, I am able to get into a comfortable position, although I don't have that much leg support. If you want to lift it electrically, you have to raise the entire seat, and then I'm going to crush my head up against the ceiling. If I wanted to sit behind myself, I am going to be for a miserable ride. There is absolutely no knee room left for me. Headroom doesn't really exist. So if you're over 6 foot, do avoid getting into the back seat of this car. You have a few different screen sizes available that will come with either Sync or Sync 3. The most basic one is 4.2 inches diagonally, but the top trim has the 8-inch screen. You do also have a tiny little digital screen that will show you your trip information, settings about the car safety systems, your phone and all that kind of stuff. You have a cold weather package available, so you can get a heated steering wheel, the heated wing mirrors, which is something I would absolutely choose. I'm surprised that Ford put an actual manual handbrake in this car. It seems like so many automakers are going with an electronic handbrake with just a button to try and free up some space. And you've got a couple cup holders down here and then just two other little slots to put things. Another small detail that I don't think many people are talking about is that you actually have a little side pocket here on the passenger side, which if you wanted to store some pens or a phone, that would be the place to do it. I actually don't mind the exterior looks of this car. It looks like if people were pushing really hard at all corners of the Escape, it would kind of squinch together and make this EcoSport. It actually has a rather unique and interesting piece of design. That rear tailgate opens outwards, and this has appeared to be a rather debated subject. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? Well, here are the arguments. It's a good thing because it has a very low loading floor, so that can make things easier to get in and out, and it opens onto the sidewalks, so that makes it easily accessible. But here's a couple problems. If you were to back into a corner stall and it had all the walls beside, you're going to have to be a lot further out of the parking bay. It is hydraulically assisted, so that makes it very easy to open. And then if you so desire, you could lift up the false floor and have a little additional storage. But you don't have a space to properly house the security cover. That won't fit. The roads here in Newfoundland are absolutely atrocious. We've had to do a lot of pothole dodging in my time here, but I think this EcoSport is fairly comfortable. The seats have a good plushness to them. I'm really noticing with this car is that it hides its speed perhaps a bit too well. I've driven this car quite a bit on some very twisty roads here, and quite a lot of the time I've been thinking I'm doing around 50 kilometers an hour, when it turns out I'm actually doing 80. So if I was to buy this car, I'd probably get it with the 1 liter, as I think it's a little better handling. It's not as heavy, it's obviously better on fuel, and it doesn't have that unpleasant boom like the 2 liter did. I do think it is worth looking at the EcoSport. It's reasonably fun to drive, it's well put together, and I actually really like the way this car looks. It has a stupid name, it's got a few problems with it, like the interior materials that are somewhat lacking, and neither of the engines are all that desirable. But if you are looking for a car in the subcompact space, I do think this EcoSport offers a lot of very desirable features and technology, and also a rather likable character. So that's been everything from me. Thank you so much for taking time to watching this video. I hope you can like, share, and subscribe, and I hope to see you again here on The Drive Guide.